The difference between an agent and a realtor is real. Realtors have the expertise to find exactly what you need and the ethics to do the right thing, even when it's the harder thing. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
Now you can enjoy MLB Play, the one app with all your favorite free MLB games. Enjoy Beat the Streak, Quick Pick, and more. Enjoy competing against friends. Enjoy unlocking exclusive rewards. Plus, your chance to win $5.6 million. Download MLB Play. Enjoy the app. Enjoy the show. MLB Play. No purchase necessary. Must be 21 or older to enter Beat the Streak, which ends at the conclusion of the MLB regular season or when the grand prize is won. Restrictions apply. See MLB.com/play for official rules.
And now you're listening to Parkins and Spiegel on 670 The Score.
And he hits it high in the air to left. Culberson back on the warning track, and he'll make the grab. Robert toward third will just get in. He's out. No. Did he come off the bag?
I don't know, but his run is useless. I think he popped off the bag, and that is really a bad base running play. Literally, his run means nothing in this game unless you get another one on top of it. I think he might have popped off the bag. It's actually a very good throw to third.
Oh, yeah, he beat the throw. Yep.
There's a couple of things to look at, but the one major thing, guys, is that this team is playing a long way from smart baseball. And that's something, if you're not going to score consistent runs, if you're not going to pummel the opposition, you better at certain times outthink them, and that has not been the case with this team.
The Parkins and Spiegel Show, afternoons on The Score.
NBC Sports Chicago, and then Steve Stone with the Mully and Haw Show today. Absolutely insanely dumb moment there from Luis Robert, and just the bad season, the nightmare season continues to get worse. 312-644-6767. Want to talk to White Sox fans in just a moment. Want to talk to Tanny, though. And comes up in hip-hop, has mixtapes, a fan of Ice Cube, gets complimented left and right by all of his big celebrity opens. Said Ice Cube said that some hip-hop stations could learn a thing or two from that open. How'd that feel, Tanny?
I wish I would have had that endorsement like 10, 12 years ago about, when I was actually DJing. But, of course, Cube was awesome, and I got a chance to meet him when he was here 5 years ago. I couldn't believe it was that long ago. He signed my record, so he was very cool when I met him. And so that was the first guest I ever actually got on the turntables to produce their open. So I got on the turntables on the 1 and 2 on Friday night. Had to make sure that Ice Cube was taken care of properly.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That
you.
is hot. That's how you do it. Actually dealing with wax on a Friday night. Getting ready for a Monday guest. That's awesome. Well, the good news, Tanny, is that you have immediately been offered a recording contract by Ice Cube's label. The bad news is that recording contracts are really not worth very much at all anymore because the business has changed, so you'll still have to stay here.
As the SAP, though. I mean,
yes.
Things worked out now that you're the senior audio producer.
Yeah, no, it's probably a better deal here than it is for a recording contract. Just gotta break through on your own in the music business these days, man.
No more 360 deals. I get a 180 deal if I'm lucky.
But seriously, a couple of hip-hop stations can learn from that. That is high praise, put it in the bio. That is an awesome endorsement. Say it often. He makes it sound better than we are each and every day.
Send it to him. Seriously, we got to send it to him and ID Cosm Rock. Send him a SoundCloud link, and maybe Tanny will get swept up and be the senior audio producer for the Big Three on tour.
I mean, I'd be happy for him, but
no, you wouldn't.
I would be. I would. I would genuinely be, but it'd be sad. His gain would be our loss.
I know.
His gain would be our loss. I'm so mad at myself for not explicitly doing the call to action, and I'll tell you what it is. I think that I was a little gun shy because even though it is my brand of comedy, the stupid and futile gesture done on someone's part, and we're just the people to do it, like the line from Animal House, it's backfired for me personally and you and me as a partnership in some ways with relationships around town, whether it was Chicago wants Machado, White Sox weren't a huge fan of that, or the $3.5 million shirt for Jordan Bell to mock the selling of that draft pick. Another Reinsdorf organization wasn't a huge fan of that. They're like, I think I was a little gung-shy. Like, I'm not the leader that this movement needs. It's probably the 108 guys or Shane and Tanny or somebody else. Like I
think Shane and Gabe, these of the Southsiders podcast, the brand new Southsiders podcast, they could be the leaders of this thing.
That would be amazing. But I think that is – I think it's necessary on some level because I mean it, man. Like, Jerry Reinsdorf's a baseball person. He loves his baseball. He loves his White Sox. This is literally the most he's ever spent on his favorite thing. It's the highest payroll in team history. So you could reasonably assume that for a businessman, this is the most hype or expectation, hope, promise, whatever adjective you want to put in, that he himself has ever had going into a season. And they are collapsing. They are falling apart. And if he's not going to blame his friend, if his paying customers blame his friend, and his paying customers make his experience not pleasurable.
Yeah, if they make it unpleasant.
Maybe,
right?
Just maybe, that's the... Because I really don't think he cares what Jeff Passan writes. I really don't think he cares what Oral Hershiser and Joe Davis say on Fox Sports LA.
Eric Karros the other day.
Eric Karros.
Yes, your point is the same.
But I do think that that's his team and his ballpark and his fans, right? He hates the Cubs. He hates the big fan, like the big popular thing. He loves the White Sox and his squad. If White Sox fans make going to White Sox games uncomfortable for Jerry Reinsdorf, then I do think something is in play here.
You know what you're doing? You're bargaining. I'd like to welcome you back to the stage of grief that is bargaining. Because I know you have previously thought you were at acceptance, but I think because of the state of this thing, every once in a while you look at it and you go, well, maybe this is what's going to reach Jerry. I mean, the other day I had the sort of epiphany that is remaining, that it's going to be some kind of human empathy for his friend that he has propped up and tried to give one more chance here. That will be the thing that reaches Jerry and makes him say, oh, you know what? Yeah, I probably shouldn't be letting my friend go through this and look as bad as he does and embarrass himself in post games and stuff like that. You know, so and maybe it's a combination of these factors that could reach. It could be nothing, though. It is entirely possible that it could be nothing at all. But you seem to have kind of whether it's your epiphany today or just the realization that in all of our hopes to get something in front of Jerry, the best way to probably do it is to do it directly in front of Jerry at the ball.
I kept thinking about this. And I do want to talk to some White Sox fans today at 312-644-6767. Whether you're watching, listening, you were at the game, did you feel empowered by the Fire Tony chants? And because I would think you would, even if it's not going to result in anything. But I am genuinely curious how they feel about the moment. But I was thinking about what if this game was here today instead of Detroit? Because it felt like it had the potential for like a snowball effect to just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I wonder, you want to root for your team to win, and Lance Lynn is coming back, and they're talking about him as being a savior and a stabilizer and all of those things. And we could talk about
Papa of the rotation, said Lucas Giolito. I love that.
Yeah, and we could talk about any of the baseball factors, like the Kopech injury. Hopefully it's not big. That would be devastating. You hope that TA is back soon and that Grandal, when he comes back, he can hit and doesn't need an IL stint. And we can talk about any of the particulars of the baseball that anybody wants to. But, man, that was a thing over the weekend. It just was. And if they were here again today, if you started stacking them on each other, if people started organizing or wore bags on their heads or did a walkout or brought in a big-ass sign that made its way to Sports Center that was Fire Tony. You know, like, organization among the mob can work. Like, it's not going to affect the TV deals. It's not going to affect franchise valuation. But it can, hearts and minds, man. I really do believe in that type of, like, guerrilla marketing, for lack of a better phrase for it. And grassroots, passion, activity. It's peaceful protest is what it is. Yeah, there can be power in the message. And would I bet on it? No. I still don't think Jerry's going to pull the trigger.
The guerrilla mob.
Yes, but could Whiteside? There's a change.org petition going around with like nearly 2,500 signatures on it to get him out. But you start piecing these things together locally. I don't think it's national. I don't think he cares about national. But like if someone took out a billboard in Chicago and said "Fire Tony," you know, like if it became uncomfortable for Jerry to be here at his place, at his game, that's when you'd have a chance. I'm not saying it'd even be better than 50-50. But that's, I think, when you'd have a chance to affect some change. And I am tapping out. I'll give you the suggestions. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to be your ringleader. I'm not calling Hochberg and the window guys and my financiers and buying a billboard. I'm in enough hot water with the damn organizations already in this town. But I do believe that that's the type of thing that gives you a shot. Because without something like that, I think you got no hope.
You know, it's really, and we'll take some calls on this, but it's
we got
really sad. It's really sad because we've gotten to a point where it's kind of obvious that the team as constructed is not elite and the players are not performing at an elite level. And of course, it's not all on Tony. But it's the decision to go to Tony after the Renteria moment when you realize they need more. They have to be coached up, and they chose to not coach them up more. They chose to not go with intelligence and planning and schematics and do everything you can as an organization to be great. That has in part led them to this moment where it's almost there, too, where it's going to be very easy to say, you know what, it's just the players. Doesn't matter who was there. It might have mattered who has been there for the last year and a half plus. It really might have mattered. This was a crucial time, a crucial hire, and they fumbled it. They blew it. And don't ever let that be forgotten, because a lot of these players are not better than they were a year and a half ago or have gone backwards. And the organization is not as stable and not as strong. And that is in large part because of this terrible, needless hire. It really is. So, and remember that the manager enjoys it when you just blame the players. He enjoys it. Takes the heat off when, in actuality, organizations win these days and the Sox are not.
We've got Pete Hand, an original of the 108. He is a Sox fan leader of sorts. If you know,
I don't know about that, but thanks for having me. The thing I
don't really know about it either, Pete, but it felt good to say.
Hey, I'll take it. But the thing about it is, you know, fire Tony. There's much bigger problems than just Tony with this team. There's much bigger problems, and they need to, you know, because my fear is that they'll fire Tony, but then they'll promote like Cairo or somebody. They need to bring someone in from the outside with a fresh look at this organization, because the problems are much deeper than just Tony.
That might be true, but
I think it's. I'm sorry, Danny, but I think it's absolutely true. And they have cycled through their in-house guys over and over, and this is what they do. And it's very difficult to advance. They needed Ethan Katz from the outside to drag them forward as a pitching infrastructure. They desperately need that in leadership.
But would you feel better then if the chant was Jerry, or sell the team? Like, you know, James Fox suggesting sell the team. Like, what would you?
Why would he sell the team? It's a cash cow.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
If they have less than 1.9 million in attendance or whatever the number is, they don't pay taxes, for God's sake. It's a cash cow.
But
so why would they
Pete,
sell?
My point though is like, if you want to believe that fans have any power, and you're like, well, it's bigger than Tony, but they're never going to sell the team, and then the players' contracts are guaranteed. Like, if you are buying into any of the nonsense that I'm selling on, like, the fan upheaval having any sort of impact or potential for change, I don't think you could do much better than firing the manager.
Well, you got to go after Rick and Kenny, to be honest with you. Because, remember, it was Rick who put this roster together. Now, for the fact that he had an injury-prone roster, the depth is non-existent, because if you get the varsity out there, they're great. But when the varsity gets injured, as they do, because you can guarantee at least one IL stint from Eloy, from Mancada, from Robert, from TA, there was no accommodation for that. This is just like 2016. They lost Austin Jackson, and they went in the tank, and they're losing in division. It's the same model as 2016.
Pete, thanks for the call.
Thanks, Pete. It's so many things. It is now, and it's just because the way that they planned it as a business, we all praised the long-term contracts and the cost certainty that it provided. But it also meant, when you do business that way, that you're never going to bring in a free agent who's making massive, massive dollars. I mean, the one that they did bring in is Grandal, but that's still a small deal as compared to, like, some of the big money deals. If they had let all those guys stay on the low money, maybe they would have a chance to bring in bigger, more impactful free agents. But they chose to do it this way, and they've locked themselves in. And part of that is just is a business plan that is not all coming together. The whole thing is riddled with dysfunction on multiple levels.
Talking if White Sox fans feel any sort of empowerment after the fire Tony chance, and if you believe you can make it uncomfortable enough to Jerry to actually affect some sort of change and maybe pull this season out of a tailspin. Brizzle in Milwaukee's on the score. What up, Brizzle?
Hey, Brazil. Hey, man, good to be on the show, man. I love you guys. You guys are very, very, very informative and very fair. And always, my opinion on this, man, is like it's like the same old across the board, from the Bulls to the Bears to the Sox. They just make bad decisions. I think Tony La Russa should have never been hired. The last coach really was a good coach. I really liked him. I thought he just needed time because of the injuries that we suffered, and the team just got off to slow starts. I think he just needed more time with the young talent that we had. But Jerry Reinsdorf, he seems to, let things fall apart and go with the flow, long as he's making money. So that's really the way I see it across the board in Chicago. It's just bad management all the way from the top, and it flows to the bottom, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there's the proof's in the pudding there, man. I appreciate the call, and that's why, like, we've been talking about this, and I really am at acceptance. Like, I really do think that the overwhelming likelihood here is that nothing changes, but the only thing that I don't even know if it was that I didn't think they had it in them, or it was just that more White Sox fans were resigned to it, or if it just kept getting uglier. Like, a 1-2 intentional walk is absurd. Like, when you get embarrassed to be a White Sox fan, and I'm not saying that all White Sox fans were embarrassed, but that was so embarrassing, and it made so much national news. And if you were, like Shane and Tanny are part of their identification. People know them as White Sox fans. I bet you they heard from people. Did you guys hear from people after the 1-2 intentional walk that you don't normally have White Sox conversations with, being like, hey, man, what the hell was that?
Yeah, as somebody
like, it crossed over a little bit.
As somebody whose pronouns are he, him, White Sox, that
there you go.
I very much so I identify in 2022 with them as one of my personality traits. And you have friends from high school coming out through the woodworks that you haven't heard from since then that are Cub fans, just like sticking it in your face. Like, how do you feel? We talked about last week your first Chicago apartment window being propped open with a bunch of crappy books or something like that. Like, it's what it feels like. It feels like the 77-year-old book propping up a window, and Cub fans are letting us hear it.
I mean, Cubs fans don't have much to stand on right now.
I know, but that's how bad it is. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, I'm hearing from friends from high school that I haven't heard from in 10 years.
I forgot about the window analogy and just how good it was.
One of my best, right?
Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
Can you do it again right now? Because the quick summation on the back end doesn't quite do it justice.
Right. So
this is a winning window.
Yeah, this is like a big window problem, and we don't like big window on this show.
Famously.
So what's happening is this White Sox contention window is the first window in your first post-college apartment that the little hinges on the side, you just want to prop it up and let the breeze run through, get some nice breeze in on a nice Saturday afternoon. But every time you prop that window open, the little clips on the side break. So you have to take all of the old crappy books and textbooks from high school and college that you never used and put those in the window frame so you could prop the window open. But it just keeps on sliding down a little bit more. Just keeps on sliding down a little bit more. I would love to put Tony and prop that window up with his head right now.
He's a rusty window hinge of sorts.
A lot of negative vibes.
A lot of negative vibes.
Deserved, buddy.
Lot of negative vibes.
I thought he was the old textbook in that, Danny. He's not the hinge. He's the textbook. And I was trying to think of the right textbook to reference. It's 77 years old.
Tanny, you're the adult in the room. You're right. It was the textbook last time.
Okay.
You're 100% right. You're the adult. You're the rational White Sox fan. You were with me on acceptance. Did Fire Tony feel like a moment at all to you?
No, it didn't. I was happy for Sox fans, though. Like, it was overdue, to be honest with you. But when you don't know what to do as a Sox fan, that's like your last resort. It's just chanting things that ultimately won't change anything. Like, this is embarrassing, man. And when you're a fan of a team and the team is not good, you can really reconcile with that most of the time. Like, you can say, okay, it's not talented enough or what have you, or there's a team that's better, you just got beat on a day-to-day basis. That's fine. Like when you're watching the rebuild years, those teams that for most of the part they played hard, but they were just out there just doing as hard as they could. But when you see a team like this and they're underachieving, and it's a lot harder to reconcile with that as a fan because of the way this team was built, because you don't know who to get angry with. Like, you can get angry at Tony, but Tony didn't hire himself, but you look at the roster, it's like, well, Rick Hahn built the good parts of this roster, but who built these bad parts of the roster here? Was this Tony? Like,
Kenny. That was Kenny.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you don't know who to blame or who to get angry with, so it's beyond frustrating. Like, I refuse to believe that Rick Hahn had a big say in deciding some of these clunkers that we've had the past few years, because clearly he can identify talent. Like, he was able to build this thing up through those trades in 16 and 17. But the other pieces, like spending all the money on the bullpen, and you couldn't use half your bullpen this weekend. Like,
right.
It's just so frustrating because you don't know who to get angry at, but it's really not productive to get angry at an owner. You know what I mean? Like,
it really is
at a billionaire who hired his millionaire friend during a pandemic. Like, it really just it's been a difficult season. It's embarrassing, to be honest with you. I have no real urge to go out to the park. Get offered tickets every now and then. It's just for what? You know what I mean? Like, my family hasn't asked to go yet. They check in. How are they doing? They can tell how they're doing by how I'm acting at home. And they know how I'm doing, but it's maddening because you see the talent on the roster and you can't get them out there to play a series together, let alone a season. So I don't know what to do at this point. I used to be the rational thought provider for the White Sox fans out there, but this is where we're at right now. And they're not far. They're not far. Like, I think they could still make the playoffs and they could win a fluke World Series. I'll gladly take it at this point. But it seems like there's so many things wrong at an institutional level with this team, and it feels like they've been doing business the same way they've always done it for my entire life and my dad's entire life, and it feels like it's not going to change, and that's the worst part.
I remember there were years during the rebuild and as they were putting things together where I co-opted the Oldsmobile thing and said, "This is not your father's White Sox team," And there were times where it really felt new. It felt like things had changed and they were transitioning and doing things smarter, and they did some. But now all of a sudden, it feels like your father's White Sox team.
And
it just does.
And speaking of my father, he was taking care of my daughter the other day when they had the day game with Tony in the 1-2 intentional walk. And I explained it to him what happened, everything in that inning, because he hadn't seen the game, and he was just dismayed. And this is a guy who's as old.
I'm disgusted.
Old school White Sox fan as it gets, season ticket holder in the past, but pulled his money away when the product on the field ceased to be any good. And I was trying to explain to him the whole process of the rebuild in 16 and why it was going to be a good thing. And I was telling him about all the prospects and every step of the way. But then as it got deeper into it, it's harder to justify a lot of the things. And it's harder to get hopeful about a lot of the things. Like after they whiff on Machado, and I was telling my dad, it'll be okay because they got extra money to play with, and then they never spent that money. So you look like a fool for buying in all those years, and now you're seeing You're talking about firing the manager in the middle of the World Series window. I never would have predicted this years ago. Never. Like it's unconscionable to think that this is how this thing is shaken out when you said, hey, here's 2019, for example, here's all the talent. Here's the young Moncada. Here's Eloy. Here's Lucas Giolito, who just got done being the worst pitcher in baseball, but now he's good. If you would have told me 2019, 2020 that this we'll be talking about in 2 years, I never would have believed you. It's insane.
It's a crazy fall. More injury news. Yasmani Grandal is going on the 10-day injured list. That's retroactive to June 12th with the back spasms.
Real quick, Danny, but it's a fall, but it's not over yet. This thing is not written in stone here.
I agree.
With the organization, with this team this year, with this window, it can still be salvaged, and we'll talk about that as the show goes on.
Yes, and there's a lot of White Sox fans who want to weigh in. And do you keep up with the Fire Tony chants? Do we maybe do a bunch of hits? Can we suggest some new chants? Because if White Sox fans are going to get angry and organized, I am here to stuff the suggestion box. It's Parkins and Spiegel on The Score.
The difference between an agent and a realtor is real. Realtors have the expertise to find exactly what you need and the ethics to do the right thing, even when it's the harder thing. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
Now you can enjoy MLB Play, the one app with all your favorite free MLB games. Enjoy Beat the Streak, Quick Pick, and more. Enjoy competing against friends. Enjoy unlocking exclusive rewards. Plus, your chance to win $5.6 million. Download MLB Play. Enjoy the app. Enjoy the show. MLB Play. No purchase necessary. Must be 21 or older to enter Beat the Streak, which ends at the conclusion of the MLB regular season or when the grand prize is won. Restrictions apply. See MLB.com/play for official rules.
How did one man go from the scion of a Bay Area sausage company to triple murderer?
Bud Stewart was always just a little off the rails.
I'm Natalia Gurevich, and I explored this question and many others on The Sausage King, a new podcast from KCBS Radio and Odyssey.
He would park the truck with the pig and the straw in front of my campaign headquarters.
Didn't like to follow any rules.
Subscribe and listen now on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Parkins and Spiegel Show.
I don't know what's going on with any of it.
Afternoons on The Score.
Part of the reason why Tony La Russa is the manager now is because Jerry felt bad about firing him almost 40 years ago. So the front office might have a view, fans might have views, social media might have a view. Nobody's view matters other than Jerry Reinsdorf's.
Buster Olney with that earth-shattering report, telling the true story that we know locally to a national audience that might not know it. It's Parkins and Spiegel on The Score. We're talking about what felt like a moment over the weekend with the Fire Tony chants. Did you feel empowered? Do you feel like you could break through? And what's next? I'm bummed that they're on the road here because I really think that this type of things can have a little bit of a snowball effect, but it also does give us time to plan and stuff the suggestion box for the next thing. Which do you prefer, Speaks? Do you prefer the concentrated, like surgical strike of just fire Tony? Just like stay on message, louder and louder, and just last time it was 5,000 people, then the next time it's 10,000 people, then eventually it's 15, like just one message? Or do you like, some things directed at the owner? Some people are suggesting 1 and 2, like going back to the count from the intentional walk, which I think that might muddy the waters a little bit and make it about one issue as opposed to the bigger problem. I personally think surgical strike. Like, you're not going to get Jerry Reinsdorf to sell the team. You're just not with like a sell the team or a Jerry. That's not going to happen. But a surgical game in, game out, keep the focus on where change can actually happen. Managers get fired in season all the time. It is possible. Fire Tony.
Yeah, it's probably the right thing to do is to choose one and go for it. If you're gonna do that, it's so big, man. It's such a shame because it's so.
I'm not saying that solves all the problems, obviously.
Right?
I'm not.
But if that's the strategy, yeah, and then let other people kind of. I would do this. Anything that anyone does that you feel has value, try to get it to Jerry. Try to get it to his ears. This is the best thing when you can do it at the ballpark and get it onto the broadcast. But like sneaking in a sign, doing an organized walkout, or like if you really want to make that point, and don't go. I mean, that's the other thing, which I don't like suggesting that. You know
that
why?
One, yeah,
Danny?
that doesn't work because it's so hard to say, oh, they're not there because of this. It's very difficult.
Yeah, no. Exactly. And you deserve to have a freaking night at a ballpark. You deserve to go and hang out at a ballpark and watch a baseball game. His problem is that sometimes it doesn't feel so good. So, yeah, no, I think it probably makes sense to do it that way. It's just there are so many things that are bad now, so many things that are obviously bad, and you don't know what to do with the anger. Like you were mentioning some of the other baseball things. Jose Abreu's hitting .312 last month. He's got an on-base percentage of .434 over the last 30 days. He's been good, but yesterday he had 2 chances to do things of consequence, one in the 7th, and then one again in the 10th after they stranded the ghost runner there in the top of the 10th, and he didn't. He didn't come up big either time. But what are you going to do? You're going to yell at Jose Abreu? Going to boo Jose Abreu?
No.
I mean, no. That's why people end up focusing on the manager, who is the identity of the team. He is the public face of the entire team.
Someone says you could hang a sign on the 35th Street Bridge over the Dan Ryan before the morning commute. Like, I'm telling you, like, acts of civil disobedience around town. I'm not calling in the favors. I'm not paying for the billboard. I can't be banned from 40% of the professional teams in this town. Can't have it happen. But I make the suggestions. How much does it cost for a billboard nowadays, by the way?
I am not doing the research for you on that one.
Okay.
I'm distancing myself from this as much as humanly possible.
Okay.
I have to.
That's a wise move.
Coward.
That's a wise move.
I'm not a coward. I'm trying to be the person to hold a relationship.
I'm not
that's beneficial for us moving forward.
You heard the Fire Tony chants, man. The mob is out there. They are organizing with or without our help. This is how it works. This is how it happens. They are angry. They need a winning road trip in the worst way. Like they need some good vibes, babe. They need some positive news. Michael Kopech gets hurt. Yasmani Grandal gets hurt. They lose a series to the Rangers. They get embarrassed on national TV. The manager makes an ass of himself with the media. It's not good. Bill on Capitol Hill's on the score. Bill, thanks for calling.
Thanks for having me, lads, and I appreciate you turning a 50,000-watt station into a great wailing wall of White Sox fans. I agree with you, Danny, that you got to fight for the Asterisks at a minimum. And this is an exact analogy, too. So just like when the Spanish Republicans were fighting against fascism, the slogan was better to die on your feet than live on your knees. But the second thing is, to Tanny and Speegs' learned helplessness here, the other callers have been right. La Russa is the guy who's exposed the institutional problems here. Yes. So if you get rid of him, you at a minimum, you would at a minimum start the wheel rolling. But the larger point is this, that someone at a minimum, one would hope that Rick Hahn, someone is whispering in Rick Hahn's ear and saying whether or not Jerry's going to give you the budget, and I, for myself, am tired of hearing about how Reinsdorf's cheap. I think that's a cruel myth. But whether or not you have the budget or whether or not you can make trades, it's time to redo the instructional leagues and the minor leagues. Because if you watch every other professional, successful team in this league, from the Braves to the Cubs to the Red Sox, all of their hitters, even the bad ones, all of their players, even the bad ones, have a certain approach to the game that goes top down, and the language is all the same, right? And they're not relying on making trades or getting lucky in the draft. They develop talent. I mean, take a look at Christopher Morale over on the north side of town. And so the fact is, you fight for the asterisk now, whether or not he goes, you get a marker down, right? So that at a minimum, if this window closes and you don't get the rings that we so richly deserve, at a minimum, nobody's going to be able to say, well, who saw this coming? It was just all rum luck. It's a matter of fact that Tony La Russa, I mean, in his own way, he's sort of history on horseback here, right? Because he's exposing these huge institutional flaws in a team that wasn't supposed to have it. I'm sorry, you going to say something, Speaks?
Well, no, I was just going to, Bill, listen, thanks for the call. We're up against a break. Speaks has been talking about the instructional part and the coaching part and all of that for a long, long time. It's That's a little different than what I'm talking about and what that moment felt like Saturday, which was like, can you force change to pull this thing out of a tailspin? Like, I'm not saying, sure, change how you coach base running throughout the entire organization. Like, I'm here for all of that for you, but like that doesn't help Jose Abreu get a ring before he retires.
Well, that's the thing. It feels so minimalist to be talking about this season in a bubble when Tony has indeed exposed all of the institutional issues, all of the organizational issues that still exist. I fear that we're going to look back on this moment when they knew they needed more after firing Renteria, and so many stories had the White Sox leaning A.J. Hinch and grabbing somebody from outside the organization to come in and be a strong leader and bring outside philosophies. And it seemed so close to the point that a press release had A.J. Hinch's name and autograph on it.
What a great moment that was.
Oh, my God. But it's so telling, because if it indeed was about to go that way before the process was hijacked by ownership, which is certainly how it felt and how it still feels to this day, then that was the moment. That was the moment where somebody was empowered to complete a process and bring in somebody from outside the org to help you get over that final hurdle. And it was denied. It was denied. And then all of this feels like endlessly predictable exposition since that moment. Like, here we go. Oh, yeah, that's right. Back to just blame the players and not winning as an org, when that's the way it was built to try and do it the modern way. So I hope we don't just look back on that moment and say, well, that's where they blew it, and then onward we go, and we'll regroup a few years later. But that's what it feels like to me, unfortunately.
Speegs was off Hit and Run and did TV. We've got audio from Hit and Run that he needs to hear, and from his TV appearance. Next on The Score.
The difference between an agent and a realtor is real. Realtors have the expertise to find exactly what you need and the ethics to do the right thing, even when it's the harder thing. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
Ever wonder what it's like to play in an MLB game? Play Loud is your exclusive look into the fun of the game as we mic up the league's biggest stars and follow them with dedicated cameras both on and off the field. Watch game time reactions to some of the biggest plays and follow your favorite players as they chat in the dugout with their teammates between innings. You never know what you're going to see or hear. It's baseball like you've never watched before. Tune in for new episodes of Play Loud, only on the MLB YouTube channel.
Hey everyone, I'm Ron Darling.
And I'm Jimmy Rollins.
The official baseball rulebook is full of all sorts of strange rules.
But the unwritten rulebook is even weirder.
We each come from different eras, and we each were taught to play the game in different ways.
In this new podcast series, we're going to break down all of the unwritten rules that govern the game, from throwing out a batter to stealing bases during a blowout.
Check out Unwritten from Odyssey and MLB. New episodes start June 1st.
Find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Parkinson Spiegel Show.
Those network nitwits wouldn't know a decent announcer from a Ken doll. Do you see what this is? Yeah, your hand. That's my fist. When I close it while we're on the air, you close your mouth. That's the most important skill in this job. That's you talking. That's you shutting up. Comprende?
Afternoons on The Score.
Surrounded by the sports news of the week, this stuff demands to be dissected intelligently, thoughtfully, and passionately, and we're just the people to do it, I think. It is The Reporters right here on Marquee Sports Network. I'm Matt Spiegel from 670 The Score, joined by longtime Chicago veteran radio man George Offman. Good to see you, George. Chris Emma from 670 The Score, reporter, and Kevin Powell, WGN radio sports reporter. Lots to talk about, guys. You ready to go?
Ready.
So, been a tough week.
Bet you they line up to hear this one.
The shot.
How was TV? How was The Reporters?
I had a great time. Enjoyed myself over there. Enjoyed the panel. It was very clear, as has been the case, especially since the newsy moment and your initial episode thereafter, handling it with J.A. Adonde, that there were no gloves on. There was no restrictions at all on what was being said. In fact, in the opening segment all about baseball managers. I worked in some shots to the way that Theo Epstein's regime ended over there and how that window closed perhaps earlier than it needed to be. So it was nice from that regard, and to help reinforce that, because you and I would not do shows where that kind of thing was demanded. So, anyway, I had a very good time. Doing it. And Chris Emma, our colleague, was fun and kind of goaded me. He goaded me a little bit. Oh yeah, Danny.
What did Emma make you do? Let me hear.
I feel like I'm one of the only patient Bears observers or Bears fans, Bears talk show hosts, whatever, in this town. And it comes up all the time on our show, on 670 The Score, with Danny Parkins, because...
oh, no.
All morning long.
Hell yeah, dude.
Right, it's our show. And all morning long, and I should say like twice. Chris Emma said, "I love that moment when he said my show. And you guys gave it to him. That was
Jed
great
Hoyer
stuff."
just met with the media yesterday, right?
Jed is a very accessible.
Right.
I mean, the guy makes football picks on my radio show. Like he is not a tough man to track.
So I think the bigger problem with
so I wasn't even thinking about doing it, man. But Emma mentioned twice how much he loved that.
On air?
No.
Oh, okay.
But like once before the
Jesus.
show, and then once during the break, and then as our show was about to come up in conversation, I found myself going right there, baby. And so I dropped in the our show.
My radio show.
Our show.
My radio show.
Our show.
My radio show.
Our show.
That's good. It's really good.
Body bag, Tanny.
Yeah.
You brought out the body bag.
Yeah, I have no rebuttal. I have been checkmated on our show. I have been checkmated on our show. Yikes. That's tough.
Yeah. It's
good for you. Good for you. You're a real team player. Thanks for buying dinner, by the way. Yeah.
You're welcome. I will buy dinner.
Yeah, we know.
I think about the boys. I think about the guys. I'm so altruistic and my heart is so pure, Danny. You know that.
Always. Yeah, it's the purest of hearts. So what is Hit and Run? Is Hit and Run the Scores show, or is that your show?
It's a good question. That's an excellent question you pose. I would have to say it is the Scores baseball show that I've been fortunate to host a few different times.
So you don't have a show. I got you. Interesting. Okay.
I do think of it as mine. Thank you. As big difference, solo host. That to me strikes me as a sort of an.
That is a difference. Yeah. That is a difference.
But I wasn't on it. I wasn't even on my show. I got people texting me during the morning like, "Who's Cody Decker and what is he doing?" I'm like, "You don't know Cody Decker. He's a legend."
Cody Decker pick a fight with known nemesis of our show. Normally me, Kevin in Palatine.
Sean just informed me we do have Kevin from Palestine. He disagrees. White Sox aren't.
Come on. No way. Cody, I know you played for Team Israel in the World Baseball Classic.
I'm speechless.
And Cody had a giant mensch sitting on the bench of Team Israel in the World Baseball Classic.
That's true. I mean, that is the reach of your show speaks is amazing. That's someone from Palestine.
Sean just informed me we do have Kevin from Palestine. He disagrees. White Sox are an all-star team. Really? Well, based on numbers, I don't know how you disagree, and based on the players, I don't know how you disagree, but go ahead, give me your thoughts. I'd love to hear it, Kevin.
Oh, okay. Let's see. The below average WAR third baseman, the below average WAR left fielder, the worst second base platoon in baseball, the horrific hitting and defensive catchers. People love Reese McGuire. He's okay. And then everyone's waiting for Eloy, the -2 WAR player so far this year, to come back. So
this year,
I'll give you
the
Tim
guy that's
Anderson.
played 10 games.
Oh, well, he sucked last year too. So that's fine.
Come on!
Yeah. Great fake laugh. Bring up his numbers from last year. You picked him to win the pennant.
I'm glad you're getting furious about this, but are you serious? You're literally basing Eloy's numbers on the 10 games he's played and he hasn't been healthy, and you're saying, oh, well, Eloy, -2 last year. Great, last year. I'm sorry you don't like the platoon at second base and a below-average WAR at third base. Look throughout the league. Where are you finding above-average WAR? San Diego, St. Louis. That's about it. What superstars are throughout the league right now that you're talking about?
all over the place. All I'm saying is you're saying they're an all-star.
Name anywhere else.
The Yankees,
Okay.
the Red Sox, the Astros.
What? The Red Sox have had one of the worst starts in baseball. They've only turned it on lately. Actually, everyone was clamoring for them to fire everyone literally 2 weeks ago. And you're bringing up the Red Sox?
The bad White Sox players any better. Dude, your Nick Swisher starter kit, your Broseph, you sound like a moron. And the Sox...
Get off the air, you clown. I actually did this for a living. You're a guy who watches it. You play slow pitch softball. You're a softball guy. You are a zero.
Whoa.
Remain a zero. Oh my God, the guy at third base isn't good at third base. You don't know what you're talking about. You're a moron. You shouldn't watch baseball or sports. You should get back to your good hobbies. Coloring. Moron.
Good vibes, babe.
What?
The
Why do
good
you have to
vibes
go
Sunday
there?
morning show.
Softball drive-by. That's your guy, Shane.
Yeah. We're gonna have a real quick conversation, Cody and I, in a couple minutes when I call him during the break.
Oh my goodness!
I thought that the audio we were going to play in our next segment was my favorite from the weekend, but I think Kevin in Palestine might have taken the cake.
Sean just informed me we do have Kevin from Palestine.
Oh God, is that amazing?
Could you imagine, you're tuning in to hear Matt Spiegel's companion baseball show and the vibes of
That's me.
Just the easy pace of a Sunday morning going to the hardware store, and Dick's like, "You moron! Get back to coloring!
I did this for a living. You watch sports.
You're mentioning the Red Sox." The Red Sox!
I was hanging some drywall in the basement. I was like, oh, hell yeah. A little spicy on a Sunday morning.
Wow.
They called him Broseph. Oh, the Nick Swisher starter kit.
The Nick Swisher starter kit.
Yeah, that was great.
God, that was a good line.
That's out of pocket.
Yay, man. Look, give it up for Kevin. You know how hard it is to write material and stay attuned to the White Sox from Palestine? Internet is bad. There's strife right outside your window. It's got to be very difficult. But Kevin from Palestine is one of the most adept callers.
Texter says it's always a big surprise when Charlotte J calls in from the Golan Heights.
Hey, this is Pete from Libya.
That is a niche text, and I appreciate it. We appreciate it on our show. My favorite audio. No, I don't even know what's going on. It's Parkins and Spiegel on The Score.
The difference between an agent and a realtor is real. Realtors have the expertise to find exactly what you need and the ethics to do the right thing, even when it's the harder thing. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
Home to all the jaw-dropping moments. Home to all the best plays in the league. Home to your favorite players from the cities you love. MLB.tv is the home of streaming baseball. Home or away, catch all the MLB action this season with live and on-demand content across all your devices. Enjoy MLB Big Inning, select pregame and postgame coverage, and an expanded library of highlights and content. Never miss a moment of the action with MLB.tv. Stream every game from every team all season long with MLB.tv. Blackout and other restrictions apply.
Welcome to History is Us. I'm Dr. Eddie S. Glaude Jr. Join me as we journey through history to face the ugly truths at the heart of the American story. Throughout this series, we explore who we are as a nation. Listen to History is Us, a creation and presentation of Shining City Audio, a C13 Originals, and John Meacham Studio. Available now on the Odyssey app or wherever you listen to your podcasts.